You are not here by chance, and this moment is not random. Even the way your attention rests on these words has weight. There is a quiet process unfolding beyond your immediate awareness, not dramatic, not loud, but precise and intentional. It has been unfolding for some time now, long before you noticed the stillness in your life, long before the pauses that felt unanswered. Something has been observing how you move through silence, how you remain when nothing seems to be happening, how you carry yourself when no one is watching. There is a reason the noise around you softened, a reason distractions fell away one by one. This was not loss. This was space being created. Not empty space, but sacred room for alignment. You were not being delayed. You were being readied. Each quiet stretch, each unanswered question, each moment where you felt unseen was actually a moment of careful attention, as if something unseen leaned closer, not to judge, but to understand your steadiness. What is happening now does not rush you. It does not chase you. It waits, patiently, because it responds only to inner stability. There is no pressure here, no demand, only a gentle witnessing. Your consistency in stillness matters more than any outward action ever could. This is why nothing forced itself into your life prematurely. This is why doors did not open before you were balanced enough to walk through them without losing yourself. Stay till the end of this moment, not out of fear, but out of presence. Because what is unfolding responds to attention, not urgency. When you remain present without grasping, something aligns naturally. This is how trust is recognized. This is how readiness is felt without being announced. You may have sensed this watching before, not as eyes, not as scrutiny, but as a subtle awareness that your inner world was being quietly acknowledged. Not every soul is given this kind of attention. It is reserved for those who can carry meaning without needing to display it. Those who do not collapse when nothing moves. Those who remain whole even when outcomes are withheld. The stillness you experienced was never emptiness. It was preparation disguised as waiting. Each moment of restraint, each time you chose calm over reaction, you were signaling alignment. You were showing that when movement finally arrives, it will not unsteady you. It will meet you where you already stand grounded. Do not skip this moment, because skipping has never been about missing information. It has always been about turning away from presence. And presence is the only thing that allows the unseen process to complete itself. When you stay, without resistance, without impatience, something settles into place naturally, like ink drying where it was meant to rest. There is no threat here. Nothing disappears in anger. Nothing is taken away. What fades only does so when attention is withdrawn, when alignment is abandoned, when inner steadiness gives way to distraction. What remains grows quietly when you stay centered, when you trust the silence, when you do not demand proof before readiness. You were never meant to chase what is coming. It approaches only when it recognizes familiarity in your stillness. This is why the watching felt calm. This is why the waiting did not punish you. It shaped you. It refined the way you hold yourself when nothing is promised and everything is possible. Now, the process reaches its natural conclusion. Not with noise, not with announcement, but with a deep sense of inner readiness. The watching softens into trust. The waiting settles into alignment. The preparation completes its cycle and releases you forward without force. You stand steady now, not because something external changed, but because something internal finalized. The unseen work has finished what it came to do. Nothing more is required of you in this moment except to remain as you are, present, grounded, and quietly certain that what aligns with you will move toward you naturally, without effort, without fear, and without resistance. Nothing needs to be added to you now. What was missing was never a flaw, only timing. You may feel a subtle shift in the way your breath settles, in the way your thoughts no longer rush ahead of you. This is how completion announces itself, quietly, without spectacle. When alignment arrives, it does not shake the ground. It steadies it. You are standing on firmer inner ground than you realize, and this stability is what was being waited for all along. There was a moment, perhaps many moments, when you questioned whether remaining still was a mistake. When movement around you made your own pause feel heavy. But stillness was never the absence of progress. It was progress occurring beneath the surface, away from noise, away from interference. It was a truth about you, about how deeply you are trusted with stillness, about how naturally you align when nothing interferes, about how your presence stabilizes rather than disrupts. These are not qualities that need explanation. They are qualities that need space. The silence you endured was that space. The waiting was not empty time, it was a chamber where your inner structure was strengthened. Stay with this awareness a little longer. Notice how there is no fear rising as you listen, no urgency pushing you forward, only a sense of quiet inevitability, as if something has already settled into its final position. That is because the unseen process is completing itself now. Not with a sound, not with a signal, but with a deep internal confirmation. You are not stepping into something unknown. You are standing inside something that has been forming for a long time. My beloved child, the watching is softening now, not because attention is leaving, but because trust has been established. What comes next does not require supervision. It requires presence. And presence is something you have already mastered through stillness, through patience, through learning how to remain open without reaching. The movement you sense is not a shift in the outer world first. It is a settling within you, a readiness that does not need to announce itself. As this message draws to a close, notice how complete it feels, how nothing seems missing, how there is no need to wait for another sign. That is your signal. The unseen preparation has finished its work. You are standing steady now, aligned without effort, ready without tension, grounded in a quiet confidence that does not need words. What was hidden has been integrated. What was watched has been trusted. And you remain exactly where you need to be, calm, certain, and fully present. The quiet you are standing in now is different from the silence you knew before. Earlier, silence felt like absence, like something withheld. Now it feels complete, like a room after careful arrangement, where nothing more needs to be moved. This is how you know a transition has already occurred within you. Not loudly, not dramatically. It happened the way understanding happens, without announcement. When the mind finally stops resisting what the inner self has long accepted. There was a phase when you questioned whether anything was actually happening at all. Days blended into one. Another. Progress felt subtle, almost imaginary. Yet beneath that still surface, a deep calibration was taking place. Your reactions softened. Your patience lengthened. Your need for validation loosened its grip. These were not small changes. They were foundational shifts, the kind that allow what comes next to stand without collapsing under expectation. You were not being delayed. You were being tuned. The waiting was not emptiness, it was refinement. Each quiet moment removed something unnecessary, an old urgency, a borrowed fear, a belief that movement must always be visible to be real. What remained was steadiness. And steadiness is what allows truth to settle rather than shock. If you look closely at your recent past, you may notice how certain distractions quietly fell away on their own. Not through effort, not through struggle. They simply lost relevance. This was not loss. It was alignment asserting itself gently. What does not resonate cannot stay when inner clarity begins to stabilize. That is why the watching never interfered. It trusted the process enough to let it complete itself. Stay till the end of this moment, because what you are sensing now is not anticipation. It is readiness without restlessness. The kind of readiness that does not lean forward, but stands balanced, knowing it can respond when needed. Nothing is being demanded of you. Nothing is being withheld either. The space around you feels open because it is no longer crowded with unresolved tension. The truth that was once hidden did not arrive as information. It arrived as peace, as the absence of inner resistance, as the quiet confidence that you do not need to rush toward what is meant for you, because what is meant for you recognizes you by stillness, not pursuit. This is why there is no instruction being given now. You are not being prepared anymore. You are prepared. Notice how your breathing feels slower as you listen. How your thoughts no longer scramble to interpret every word. This is the sign of internal agreement. Awareness speaks only when the listener is ready to hear without reacting. And you have reached that point naturally, without force, without pressure, without needing to prove anything. What unfolds next will feel ordinary on the surface. That is intentional. Stability does not announce itself with intensity. It integrates seamlessly into your life, changing how you respond rather than what you chase. The unseen work has concluded, and what remains is a steady presence that knows when to move and when to remain still, without confusion. There is nothing more you need to do in this moment. Nothing to fix. Nothing to anticipate. Simply recognize the calm certainty now settled within you. This is completion. The process that worked quietly behind your awareness has reached its natural end, leaving you grounded, aligned, and ready, not for disruption, but for continuity. What you are feeling now is not the beginning of something new, but the quiet confirmation that something essential has already taken root. Beginnings often carry excitement or uncertainty. This does not. This carries familiarity, as if you have stepped back into a rhythm your inner self remembers well. That is because the alignment you moved through was never about transformation into something else, but about returning to what was already stable beneath the surface. For a long time, your awareness was guided away from urgency. Not forced, not controlled, simply redirected. Situations slowed. Responses softened. Even desire learned how to wait without fading. This was not accidental. Momentum built too quickly can fracture what has not yet settled. So the pace was moderated until your inner balance could hold whatever clarity arrived. Now that balance is present. It does not wobble. It does not seek reassurance. It simply remains. You may notice that the need to understand everything has eased. Questions no longer press as sharply. This is not because answers are unavailable, but because your system no longer requires them to feel secure. Understanding has shifted from the mind to the body, from thought to presence. That is a deeper form of knowing, one that does not need to explain itself to be real. Do not skip this moment, because this is where readiness reveals its true nature. Readiness is not anticipation. It is comfort with stillness. It is the ability to stand inside uncertainty without tension. You have practiced this without realizing it, each time you allowed a situation to remain unresolved without forcing closure. Each time you trusted that clarity would arrive when it could be integrated, not just observed. The watching that once surrounded you now feels less distinct, almost invisible. That is because it has merged with trust. Observation was never meant to be permanent. It was a phase, a gentle holding pattern until self-trust could replace external reinforcement. Now that trust resides within you, you do not need to be guided moment by moment. You are capable of sensing alignment on your own. What comes next will not feel like a turning point. It will feel like continuity. Life will continue in familiar ways, but your relationship with it has subtly shifted. You will respond instead of react. You will pause instead of rush. You will recognize resonance without needing explanation. These changes are quiet, but they are decisive. They indicate that the internal framework is complete. There is a calm inevitability now, not tied to outcome, but to stability. Whatever unfolds will meet a grounded presence rather than a searching one. This is why there is no urgency in this awareness. Urgency belongs to preparation. Calm belongs to readiness. And you are standing firmly in the latter. Allow this understanding to settle without effort. Let it become part of your natural state rather than something you hold on to. The unseen process that once worked in the background has concluded its role. What remains is you, steady, aligned, and fully present, moving forward without resistance, supported by a quiet confidence that does not need to announce itself. There is a subtle shift now, one that does not demand attention yet gently holds it. It feels like standing on steady ground after a long crossing, noticing only afterward that your body is no longer bracing against movement. This is the moment when effort releases itself, not because effort was wrong, but because it has completed its purpose. What needed strengthening has strengthened. What needed softening has softened. Nothing more is being asked of you. You may sense that your relationship with time has changed, not in a dramatic way, but in how moments no longer rush past you. Waiting no longer feels heavy. Action no longer feels urgent. Both exist without friction. This is a sign of internal alignment. When the inner rhythm settles, time stops feeling like an opponent and begins to feel like a companion, moving with you instead of ahead of you. There were times when you wondered whether your stillness was being mistaken for stagnation, whether patience would be misread as hesitation. Yet what was being observed was not speed, but coherence. Not how quickly you moved, but how consistently you remained yourself. Integrity cannot be rushed into place. It forms through repetition, through quiet choices made when no one is reinforcing them. Those moments mattered more than you realized. Stay with this awareness a little longer. Notice how there is no impulse to grasp at meaning, no need to extract a lesson. The understanding is already integrated. When truth settles fully, it does not ask to be analyzed. It simply becomes the ground you stand on. This is why the message feels complete even as it continues. Completion is not an ending. It is a state of internal agreement. You are now standing in a kind of readiness that does not lean forward. It does not scan the horizon. It trusts that what aligns will approach naturally, without being summoned. This trust was not given to you. It was built within you, layer by layer, through consistency, through restraint, through learning how to remain open without becoming exposed. The sense of being monitored has dissolved into a sense of being accompanied, not followed, not directed, simply present. Awareness does not need to watch closely when stability has been established. It rests, and in that resting, it allows movement to emerge organically, shaped by clarity rather than pressure. What unfolds from here will not disrupt your center. It will move through it. That is the difference preparation makes. When the inner structure is sound, external change does not feel like invasion. It feels like extension. You will recognize this not by intensity, but by ease. Let this settle without trying to hold it. There is nothing fragile here. What has aligned is resilient. The process that worked quietly behind your awareness has completed its arc, leaving you grounded in a calm certainty that does not seek confirmation. You remain steady, present, and quietly confident, moving forward not because you must, but because you are ready to do so naturally. What emerges now is a gentler form of clarity, one that does not arrive with sharp edges or sudden realizations, but with a steady warmth that spreads through your awareness. It is the feeling of being settled into yourself, of no longer negotiating with inner resistance. You are not bracing for what comes next. You are available to it. That availability was earned through patience, through learning how to remain present without demanding proof that your steadiness mattered. There was a time when movement felt distant, almost theoretical. You sensed it, but it did not arrive in ways that could be pointed to or measured. That distance served a purpose. It allowed your expectations to soften, your imagination to quiet, your attachment to outcome to loosen. What approaches you now does not need to break through layers of anticipation. It meets you directly, without distortion. This is why it feels calm rather than dramatic. You may notice that your inner dialogue has changed. Less commentary, fewer rehearsals, more listening. This is not silence born of uncertainty. It is silence born of trust. When the need to constantly interpret fades, presence takes its place. Presence is receptive without being passive. It is alert without being tense. You have grown into this state gradually, without effort, simply by remaining where you were when distraction invited you elsewhere. Do not rush past this recognition. Stay till the end of this moment, because it holds the essence of what has been unfolding all along. You were never being prepared for something external alone. You were being prepared to meet it without losing yourself. That preparation is now complete. The inner stability you carry will not be shaken by change, nor dulled by familiarity. It will remain consistent, offering you a steady center from which to respond. The sense of inevitability you feel is not fate pressing forward. It is alignment settling into place. When inner and outer rhythms begin to correspond, movement feels natural rather than forced. Decisions feel clearer without becoming rigid. Opportunities reveal themselves without demanding pursuit. This is the environment you now stand in, shaped quietly by everything you endured with grace. There is nothing left to uncover, nothing hidden waiting to be revealed later. What mattered has already integrated itself into your awareness. The unseen process has completed not with finality, but with readiness. You are not at an edge. You are at a stable midpoint, capable of movement in any direction without losing balance. Allow this certainty to remain understated. It does not need reinforcement. It does not need repetition. It simply exists, steady and reliable. You are grounded now, aligned without strain, and quietly confident in a way that does not seek recognition. The path ahead does not require urgency, only presence. And presence is something you already inhabit fully. There is a softness in this stage that might be easy to overlook, yet it carries more strength than any intensity you have known before. It is the softness of something that no longer needs to prove itself. You are not gathering momentum now. Momentum has already gathered around you. What you are experiencing is the moment when inner resistance steps aside and allows continuity to take over. Earlier, effort felt necessary. You had to remind yourself to stay steady, to remain patient, to trust what could not yet be seen. That effort was never wasted, but it is no longer required in the same way. Stability has become natural. You no longer hold yourself together consciously. You simply remain whole. This is how you know the process has matured beyond preparation. You may sense that your attention no longer clings to possibilities. There is less scanning, less anticipation. Not because nothing matters, but because everything no longer competes for meaning. When alignment settles, relevance becomes clear without analysis. What belongs moves closer. What does not belong drifts away without conflict. This sorting happens quietly, without drama, guided by a steadiness you now embody. Do not move past this awareness too quickly. Stay till the end of this moment, because it is here that you recognize how deeply you have been trusted. Not monitored in the sense of control, but observed with patience, allowed to unfold at your own pace. That trust was not conditional. It was built on consistency, on your ability to remain present even when reassurance was absent. The calm you feel now is not emptiness. It is fullness without noise. A state where nothing needs to be added and nothing feels missing. This is why there is no instruction being given. Instruction belongs to learning. You are no longer learning how to stand. You are standing. The awareness that once guided from a distance now rests, knowing that balance has been established. What unfolds from this point will integrate seamlessly into your life. It will not announce itself as a turning point. It will simply fit. You will recognize it by the absence of inner resistance, by the way your body remains relaxed even as circumstances shift. This is readiness expressed through ease rather than effort. Let this understanding remain understated. It does not need to be carried forward consciously. It will move with you naturally, shaping your responses, refining your timing, supporting your presence without demanding attention. The unseen work is complete. You are steady now, aligned and composed, moving forward with a quiet confidence that no longer questions its own foundation. There is a quiet confidence settling now, not the kind that announces itself, but the kind that rearranges your inner posture. You may notice how you no longer lean toward outcomes or brace against uncertainty. You stand where you are, and that standing is enough. This is not indifference. It is clarity without tension. It is the understanding that movement will occur when it aligns, and that alignment does not need to be chased. What once felt like being watched now feels like being understood. The distinction matters. Being watched can create self-consciousness. Being understood creates ease. The ease you feel is the evidence of trust completing its arc. Nothing needs to be proven anymore. Nothing needs to be demonstrated. The qualities that were quietly cultivated, patience, steadiness, discernment, are now self-sustaining. You may realize that your relationship with silence has changed. Silence no longer feels like a question mark. It feels like a resting place. This is because your inner narrative no longer rushes to fill space. When the mind stops competing with stillness, stillness becomes supportive rather than unsettling. It carries you instead of confronting you. Do not skip this moment, because it reveals something essential about your readiness. Readiness is not anticipation of change, it is resilience within continuity. You are able to remain grounded regardless of pace. That is the foundation upon which anything meaningful can arrive without disruption. What approaches you will not need to force entry. It will recognize the stability you now hold and meet it naturally. There is also a subtle release happening, an untying of expectations that once quietly guided your thoughts. Expectations are not wrong, but they can narrow perception. As they loosen, awareness widens. You begin to notice without immediately categorizing. You respond without rehearsing. This openness is not vulnerability, it is capacity. You have room now. The sense of inevitability you carry is calm because it is not attached to a specific form. It is the inevitability of coherence, of things finding their place when resistance subsides. This is why there is no pressure in this awareness. Pressure belongs to misalignment. What you feel now is alignment resting in itself. Allow this to integrate fully. There is nothing you need to remember deliberately. This state will accompany you without effort, informing your timing, softening your responses, and reinforcing your center. The unseen process has concluded its work not with an ending, but with stability. You remain steady, present, and quietly prepared, moving forward with a confidence that does not need to look ahead to know it is supported.